Welcome to a deep dive into the world of something we're all familiar with, the stethoscope. It's been a symbol of medicine, for what seems like forever. But where does its story actually begin?
That's exactly what we're going to uncover today. I think it's pretty amazing how the journey of the stethoscope is connected not only to medical breakthroughs, but also to cultural shifts and how society has changed.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's start with the story. Imagine a bustling port city on a really hot summer day. Four young doctors are kicking back at a cafe after a long day at the hospital. Two of them are Austrian and two are Turkish.
I see where you're going with this. And at this cafe, their casual conversation takes kind of a competitive turn when the Austrian doctors start questioning, maybe even subtly challenging, the quality of Turkish medical education.
Exactly. One of the Turkish doctors, feeling a little bit, I guess you could say, put on the spot, decides to test the Austrian doctors with a simple question. He asks, who invented the percussion method of medical examination?
Oh, clever move. For our listeners who might not be familiar, percussion basically involves a doctor tapping on a patient's chest or abdomen and then listening for sounds that can give them information about the condition of the organs underneath.
Right. And the Austrian doctors, of course, they know the answer. They quickly say, Leopold Auenbrugger, an Austrian physician. But the Turkish doctor doesn't stop there.
Oh, this is getting good.
Yeah, he then proceeds to recite in full Latin the title of Auenbrugger's groundbreaking 1761 book, Inventum Novum ex Thoracis Humani Interni Pictoris Morbis Detigenti.
Boom. Now that's impressive. He didn't just know the name, he showed a deep understanding of medical history. That would definitely get anyone's attention.
Absolutely. It's like a knowledge mic drop.
Yeah.
It really showed that his training was thorough, maybe even more so than the Austrians. But beyond the story itself, Auenbrugger's work was a big turning point in how doctors diagnose patients.
It's true. Before Auenberger, doctors had to rely mostly on what the patient told them about their symptoms.
That must have been tough.
Yeah, it was. But with Auenberger's book, percussion was introduced as a technique that let doctors actually see inside the body without having to perform surgery.
Wow, so it was like a window into the human body.
Exactly. This new technique brought a more objective and systematic way to diagnose patients. And what's even more amazing is that Auenberger actually adapted a technique that winemakers use to figure out how much liquid was in their barrel.
That's incredible. Who would have thought? It really shows that sometimes the most innovative ideas come from unexpected places.
Yeah, Auenberger's brilliance was in realizing how this technique could be used in a completely different field. And his work set the stage for so many other innovations, including, as we know, the stethoscope.
Okay, so let's fast forward now to 1816 in Paris. We meet a young doctor by the name of René Laennec, who is working at the Necker Hospital. He finds himself in a bit of a predicament. He needs to examine the heart of a young woman, but, social customs of the time make direct contact, especially with a female patient, really awkward.
I can see how that would be a problem.
Yeah, so the story goes that Laennec got his inspiration from watching children playing in the courtyard of the Louvre Museum. They were using a wooden plank and a nail to send sounds back and forth.
It's funny how the simplest things can trigger a big idea.
Exactly. Laennec, who was also a musician, understood how sound could be amplified, and he had this, eureka moment.
I bet.
Yeah. He realized that he could use the same principle to listen to the sounds inside the human body. And so his very first stethoscope was literally just a piece of paper rolled up, which he then used to listen to the young woman's heart.
That's amazing to think about. That something so iconic started from such a simple beginning.
It is, right. And from a rolled up piece of paper, the stethoscope has become this globally recognized symbol of medicine. The word stethoscope itself actually comes from two Greek words, stethos, which means chest, and scopine, meaning to view or examine.
So literally to view the chest. And the stethoscope didn't just change the way sounds were heard, it also changed the way doctors and patients interacted.
Absolutely, it created a different dynamic. And it's interesting to note that the invention of the stethoscope happened at the same time as the devastating tuberculosis epidemic.
Yeah.
Doctors could now diagnose and understand the disease much better than before.
Which, of course, is crucial in the middle of a public health crisis like that.
For sure. So the stethoscope changed the game in medicine, not just because of the technology itself, but how medicine was practiced. But as we know, technology keeps evolving, and now in the 21st century, we have digital stethoscopes and portable imaging devices like echocardiograms and even pocket ultrasounds.
Right, and this brings up an important question. Is this the beginning of the end for the traditional stethoscope? It's a question a lot of people in medicine are thinking about. because on the one hand, these digital tools have amazing benefits. I mean, amplified sound, data visualization, you can even share recordings for, like, consultations. It's a huge leap forward.
Yeah, it's like having this super high-tech listening device that can record and analyze everything. But are there any downsides to all these advancements?
There are definitely some concerns. Some people are worried that relying too much on these technologies could cause basic physical examination skills to decline. Like the art of really listening and being able to feel those subtle changes might be overshadowed by all the screens and data.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like using GPS all the time. Sure, you might get where you're going faster, but you lose the ability to navigate on your own, right? So if those digital tools aren't available, would doctors still be as equipped to diagnose patients?
It's a good question. And this leads to another important point. In a healthcare system focused on efficiency and profits, the time doctors get to spend with patients is often really limited.
Right, they're under pressure to see more patients and perform more procedures. It's all about generating revenue. So
Yeah.
in that kind of environment, I guess a quick scan with an ultrasound would seem more appealing than a thorough examination with a stethoscope.
Exactly. It's complicated with no easy answers. The stethoscope, which was once a symbol of progress in medicine, is now at a crossroads. Will it become a relic of the past, or will it somehow evolve alongside these new technologies?
Yeah, it's like the stethoscope itself is going through a diagnosis.
Yeah.
But taking a step back from technology, what does this mean for the relationship between doctors and patients?
That's the core issue here, isn't it? Technology can give us amazing information, but it can't replace human connection. The trust, empathy, and understanding that comes from a doctor actually listening to their patient are timeless parts of healing.
And in a way, the stethoscope represents that connection. It requires doctors to be present, to really focus and listen, not just with their ears, but with their whole being.
That's a great way to put it. It reminds me of something an 11th century Arab physician named Ali ibn Ridwan wrote. He said, "Always choose the strongest and most easily recognizable signs for making a diagnosis. These signs should relate to sight, touch, hearing, smell, taste, and even intellect."
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Even back then, doctors understood how important it was to use all of their senses to understand what was going on with their patients.
It's true. And even though technology can help enhance those senses, it should never fully replace them.
So, where do we go from here? What does the future hold for the stethoscope?
Well, that's the big question. As we adopt these new technologies, we can't forget the lessons we've learned. The stethoscope, with its simple but effective design, reminds us that the most valuable tools are sometimes those that connect us to our patients on a human level.
It's a good reminder that medicine is as much about art as it is about science. And in a world dominated by screens and data, we need to remember that.
I agree. The challenge is to find a way for technology to improve, not replace, that human connection in healthcare.
It's definitely a balancing act. But what about the stethoscope itself? What could its future look like?
Well, that's where things get interesting. Some experts believe the stethoscope could actually become a hybrid tool, mixing digital capabilities with its original function of listening to the body.
Oh, so you mean like a stethoscope that not only amplifies those heart and lung sounds, but also records them, analyzes them to find anything abnormal, and maybe even sends them to a specialist for another opinion.
Exactly. That's the potential we have with these new technologies. It's not about getting rid of the traditional stethoscope. It's about making it even better, making it even more useful in modern medicine.
It's like the stethoscope is going digital. But what about those concerns we talked about earlier, like doctors losing their basic examination skills?
Well, that's where education and training are really important. Medical schools are already changing how they teach to include these new technologies while still making sure doctors learn those important traditional examination skills.
So it's not about choosing one or the other. It's about finding a good balance and making sure doctors have both the technological tools and the fundamental skills to provide the best possible care.
That's right. It's about using technology in a smart and thoughtful way, always remembering that the patient's well-being should be the top priority. And this makes me think of something else interesting from the history of the stethoscope.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, when the stethoscope was first introduced, it actually faced a lot of pushback, especially from older physicians.
Really? Why was that?
Some of them saw it as a threat, like it was challenging their authority and experience. They believed that relying on a tool to listen to the body's sounds wasn't as skillful as using their own senses.
That's interesting. It's almost like they felt threatened by this new technology. It
Right.
makes you wonder if some of the resistance we see today towards digital stethoscopes comes from a similar place.
That could be true. Change can be scary, especially in a field like medicine that has so much tradition. But the bottom line is that we should always focus on what's best for the patient. If technology can help us diagnose and treat diseases more effectively, then we should use it, even if it means challenging some of our long-held beliefs and practices.
I think that's a great message. So the stethoscope might be evolving, but its core purpose remains the same, to help us understand and care for the human body. It's a symbol of our continuous effort to solve the mysteries of health and disease.
I like that. It makes you think about the bigger picture of these technological advancements in healthcare.
What are you thinking about?
Well, we've talked a lot about the stethoscope, but it's just one example of a much bigger trend. We're seeing so many new technologies like artificial intelligence, telemedicine, and personalized medicine. These things are changing the way healthcare is provided.
It's an exciting time to be in medicine, but it can also feel a little overwhelming, right? With all this rapid change, it can be hard to keep up and understand the full impact of all of it, both the good and the bad.
That's why it's important to talk about these things, to look at things from different perspectives, and to really think critically about how we want technology to shape the future of healthcare.
Yeah, it's not just about adopting the latest gadgets. It's about using technology in a way that truly benefits humanity and leads to better health for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. And that brings us back to the stethoscope. So the stethoscope is kind of at this point where tradition and innovation meet. What does that mean for new doctors just starting out?
That's a good question.
Well, I think for them, it's about embracing both the art and science of medicine, you know? They have to be really good at those basic skills, listening and observation, which have always been central to medicine. But at the same time, they need to be comfortable with new technologies and understand how to use them in a way that's effective and ethical.
So it's not about choosing one over the other. It's about combining both approaches for the best patient care.
Right. It's about using all the tools we have, whether they've been around for centuries or are brand new, to do what's best for the patient.
It seems like the stethoscope represents this shift that's happening in medicine.
I think you're right. The stethoscope's own journey, from a simple invention to this iconic tool and now possibly integrating with digital tech, it reflects how medicine itself is changing. It's a reminder that we're always learning and adapting, finding new ways to understand and heal.
That's a great point. As we wrap up this deep dive, is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important thing is to remember that human connection is at the heart of medicine. Technology is great, it gives us amazing information and tools, but it can never replace the empathy, compassion, and understanding that comes from a doctor truly listening to their patient.
That's a powerful message. Thank you for taking us on this journey into the world of the stethoscope.
It's been my pleasure. I hope this deep dive has made everyone curious and maybe even a little amazed by how far we've come in medicine.
To our listeners, thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep listening.